Welcome, friends. Today we are on a new seminar of Borivali Central CP Study Circle. A warm welcome to all the dignitaries, all the panelists, moderators, and my dear study circle members. Before we start the session today, let's everyone rise for the institute motto, please.
सुप्तेषु जागृति येष सुप्तेषु जागृति कामं 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 कामपुरुषो पुरुषो निर्विमाणः निर्विमाणः तदेव शुक्रं तद्ब्रह्मा तद्ब्रह्मा तदेवामृतमुच्यते तस्मिन् लोकः शतः सर्वे तदूनाति कश्चनात्यपि कश्चन एतद्वैता 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 एतद्वैता.
Welcome, friends. Warm welcome to everyone again. Normally, everyone, when we come with the word CA, a chartered accountant or chartered accountant profession, what a normal perception amongst all the normal people or is that it is either GST, it is income tax, it is TDS, service tax, something like certification or advisory. But normally for everyone, the world is very small. But we can say for a chartered accountant, a world is not small, a world is very big. Because members, you can agree that now tax audit limit has increased. So tax audits are going to discontinue. GST audit has already been discontinued. So a chartered accountant has to think beyond the boundaries, beyond the contemporary or conventional practice what we are doing. And that's why with the need of the hour, we have a seminar today, a journey from conventional to contemporary, an era of new opportunities for a chartered accountant. And with this, BCSE also is going global today. That today we have a panelist right from Dubai also. So we have also crossed the boundaries for BCSE. So now, not taking much time, I would request Hiren Bhai to please introduce our panelist of the day and moderators of the day.
Thank you, Niwas Bhai. I start with the CA Subodh Agrawal ji. He's a practicing chartered accountants and practicing insolvency professionals from Kolkata. He is past president of ICI for the year 2013 and a past chairman of the Eastern Regional Council of the ICI in 2006. He is also a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Australia apart from the ICI. He is qualified IP professionals and registered with IBPI. He has also got more than 30 years of experience in various audits, SEBI matter, corporate law matters, financial services, and insolvency. I request to present a memento to Subodh ji. Sir, we welcome you to the study circle platform. Welcome, sir. Now, I just take the second panelist, CA Daya Niwas Sharma. He is a Central Council member of the ICI and managing partner of the Niwas and Company Chartered Accountant firm. He is a certified information system auditor as well as certified forensic auditor. Presently, he is a chairman of the peer review board and members and student services directorate, including SSP portal. He is a Vice Chairman of the Digital Accounting and Assurance Board and Financial Reporting Review Board. He is a member of multiple central committees. Welcome, sir, to the BCSC. Please present a moment, e-memento. Now, CA Vijaykumar MP, sir, is a Central Council member of ICI and having over 27 years of experience in industry as well as practicing chartered accountant. He is a chairman of the Accounting Standard Board. He is member of multiple central committees at ICI. He has professional expertise in accounting standards, IFRS, auditing standards, code of ethics, corporate law, governance, and capital markets. He has over 20 years of teaching experience also of accounting, financial reporting, and corporate law. He has also authored various publications for professionals and students. Welcome, Vijaykumar MP. CA Naresh Phanfat is a Wharton certified CFO and ADP holder. He is from Dubai. He has joined from Dubai to us. He is national rank holder in Chartered Accountancy exam. He is a qualified valuer, mathematics city first, economic national merit holder, and Sir Raman awardee. He has over 22 years of glorious international career in corporate finance, mergers and acquisition, deal advisory, valuation, and ministerial special projects while working in various countries, including India. Naresh has held key senior positions with Standard & Poor's S&P, PwC London, KPMG Corporate Finance, Dubai World, and other organizations. Please present a e-memento. Sir, welcome you. We also acknowledge receipt of contribution of rupees 500 each towards CABF from all 6 dignitaries. Sikandar, please introduce Abhay bhai.
Thank you, Nilesh bhai. It is a great pleasure and honor to introduce today's two moderators, CA Durgesh Kabra sir and CA Abhay Mehta sir. I'll start the introduction with CA Durgesh Kabra sir. He is a BCom, FC and IP. He is one of the founder member of our study circle. He is having 30 years of post-qualification experience. Presently, he is Central Council member of ICI. He is also a member of Quality Review Board established by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. He is also director of Indian Institute of Insolvency Professional of ICI. Now, I would like to introduce CA Abhay Mehta sir. He is a senior partner in Mehta, Choksey and Shah LLP, having vast experience of nearly 25 years. He heads the Audit and Assurance Services, Company Law Services, and Business Advisory Services. Presently, he is a Vice President of BCA. He was the member of INT-AS Implementation Group of Accounting Standards of ICI. Now, I request the panelists to start the presentation.
Before that, you please present a moment of Abhay bhai.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome, everyone. Nilesh bhai. Abhay bhai, you are on mute.
Thank you very much, Sikandar. Thank you, Hiren bhai, for introducing our distinguished guest and panelist of the day. Now, not taking much time for this panel discussion, as members are really eagerly waiting for this session. So over to you, Abhay bhai. You can start the session, please.
Welcome all the respected panelists, convener Nilesh Vasa, Hiren, Sikandar, and all other dignitaries present virtually on this mode for this today's session. Our professional space was already going through a radical change. One event of pandemic has drastically accelerated this pace of change. As we say, change is the only constant, and it is all the more true for a professional. A professional, to remain relevant, has to continuously upgrade skill sets. He should be on the lookout for the trends of changing landscape of professional offerings and assess the relevance of current services. If those services are not of relevance, he has to change gears and move in the direction where his services would be sought after. A professional who is not able to act accordingly would become an also-ran and lose out in the race to professional excellence. Today, we are here to discuss the new horizons for chartered accountants which will enable them to take on the journey from conventional offerings to more relevant and contemporary offerings to the business community. I would term this journey as the one from tax and assurance service provider to business solutions provider. We have four eminent panelists who are professionals par excellence. They each have carved an expertise in an area of professional offering. One of the panelists, CA Subodh Kumar Agrawal, is the past president of ICI. Two panelists, CA M P Vijaykumar and CA Daya Sharma, are present Central Council members representing Southern region. Fourth panelist, CA Naresh Phanfat, is an active member in overseas chapter. So, and I will just briefly introduce the topics which they will be dealing. CA M P Vijaykumar will enlighten us on opening in industry. CA Daya Sharma will deal with the opportunities unfolding through technology. CA Subodh Kumar Agrawal will provide insights into the practice area of IBC, and CA Naresh Phanfat will deal with the openings in valuation and overseas. So we all are in for a very insightful session, giving the members glimpses of the openings to render relevant professional service. And the format is that first of all, we will have all the panelists talking about the respective areas in brief for around 10 minutes. So I will request Niwas Sharma ji to start his talk on technology and enlighten the members. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Abhay Bhai, and thank you very much, Nilesh. Honorable past president of the Institute, Subodh Agrawal ji, namaskar. And thank you very much for giving, holding that position on the top and, holding the entire thing at the level where we are being given a lot of new opportunities and a lot of new things. Every time when I see 72 years is not a small time. And you have actually contributed from your part for being in the council and being vice president and president. Thank you very much for giving us the far-sightedness in the entire process. MP Vijaykumar sir, I'm privileged to be the vice chairman of Digital Accounting and Assurance Board, which has been, given birth by a person like you, who has actually been far-sighted in thinking the process and ensured that, this Digital Accounting Assurance Board actually makes a whole lot of difference. Today, I'm going to talk something on that side. And I hope we are holding your dreams on the top and continuing to do something good on that side. And Durgesh Bhai, who's always been a man with a lot of action across and a man on right time, right place, at right situations to handle. So, and thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to all of you people. Nilesh Bhai, the topic which has been there is journey from conventional to contemporary, an era of new opportunity for chartered accountant. And the topic which is given to me is unfolding through technology. Rather, I would like to ask many of the people, is it that we are in revolution? And does revolution take place overnight? If anyone can answer this, I'll be the happiest person to, accept it and moving forward. We have seen the history of this nation, globe, and the way the things have moved forward. Things have been moving. When the revolution started, any revolution started, it took its own sweet time, might be a decade or 2 decades to go through entire process. But this revolution is something which has just come on, clicking of your eyes, and things have been changed drastically. People have been thinking whether to adopt technology or not, whether we'll be in position to adopt technology or not. But the best part is a father of mine who is 75 years old adopted technology within 3 days by going through all the hearings across the length and breadth of the country for IT and appeals. That means the chartered accountant has always been adaptive to all the changes which has come. This is how the entire profession is moving towards. I always say one thing: we were till last year in profession 1.0, and since last year we are moving to profession 2.0, and industry is already moved to industry 4.0, and 5 is already in pipeline, which Vijaykumar sir will be talking about undoubtedly. But the fact is that the profession took little time because we have been burdened with so many laws and regulations across the length and breadth. But the one fact which we all have to agree, that once upon a time the nation was behind us and we were ahead, but now nation has adopted technology to a different level. When in 2014-15, when this government came and they talked about Digital India initiative, which was a 1,13,000 crores project, and everyone laughed at it. But the fact comes very simple. When the literacy is gone to a level, where the earnings have gone to a level where the last person on this, borders of this nation, is able to use technology and move towards earning his livelihood, that makes a whole lot of difference. 150th position was the position of country India in the digital, platform or data usage, and today we are world's #1, and we are seeing many changes coming in the entire process. Is technology going to make chartered accountants redundant? I say no. It is actually going to, revolutionize the entire thinking process of people in a different way. When the cranes were being introduced on the docks, the people talked about a situation where, the labor is not going to get any opportunity and there's going to be something else. But the fact has been, when the cranes came in, business grew up, huge amount of opportunity explored. All the people were being reskilled and put back to the system. I think the time has come where we need to reskill and ensure that the things are going in a right direction. And we are adaptive. We have actually been those people who have accepted all the changes which have come. We have learned these things. We have taught to the businessmen how the laws actually be applicable. This is the same way technology is going to be adopted by the chartered accountant at large. There are n number of examples which I continue giving, but the fact is, one such thing, Vijay, MPV sir will agree. Sir, IFC was the first revolution towards the chartered accountancy profession, but most of the people have closed their eyes, and that left us behind with very few firms which have adopted IFC, Internal Control Financial Framework, which talked about the manual control, system control, risk and compliance and all those things. Then followed with, in the recent past, June 2020, Reserve Bank of India has come forward and made a statement saying that no bank, when you are talking about your banking system, is a CBS environment. There should not be any human intervention in the system. And that was one more opportunity which was given to chartered accountant to tell that, we are experts in defining the processes and understanding the technology well. We again lost something there. But the fact is, Corona, it is a blessing in disguise, which actually made people forcefully adopt this entire technology. And today we all are working at different parts of the country, different parts of the world. And I think there is no boundary for the entire process. That is how the profession is actually going to evolve, and it is going to go to a different direction. In Digital Accounting and Assurance Board, Vijaykumar sir, for the first time, ICAI has done a research with the oldest institute of the world, which is ICAEW, on robotic process automation. And you will be surprised to know, friends, that ICAEW, when it came to us, and they said that we want 5 companies in India which has adopted technology, and we want to do that study. And when we told that why not you are doing in UK or Europe, they said that the fastest adoption has happened in India, and we want India to be having a case study. And that is how the first RPA research paper has come jointly between these two institutes. This is how we are making our digital footprint, or might be a global footprint, which is more prominent in more than one ways. There are much more things, continue to talk on. But one thing which I would like to finally share, I was being given an opportunity, I'm being given an opportunity to talk on the financial and tax literacy. We are not here to do any more plus and minus. We are here to do business advisory. And that is how our current president, Honorable Nihar sir, has actually initiated the process of financial and tax literacy. It is not only for the lowest of the person, but also the SME and the large corporates, where it is required that the financial and tax literacy has to go to a different level. Reason is very simple. Out of 130 crore population, we are talking about only 1.3 crore population which is filing income tax return. The financial and tax literacy is going to be a total different drive for this profession. And I request each one of you to come participate and ensure that we get the success in the entire process. And this is all going to happen with the use of technology. We are going to be there as a business advisor rather than a business accountant. We just have to forget the word accountant. Accountant is only to just do a plus and minus. We have to think about making it big, making it large. I think where a person is living in a different city or a state or a town doesn't have any borders anymore. I think expertise, knowledge, and everything is available for all of us. Use technology to the last level, which we are going to discuss. I think in the panel discussion, I would like to answer a lot of things. But MPV sir and Durgesh bhai, Subodh sir, I today talked to President. We had developed. I requested President Nihar sir to talk on, to agree for one fact on the Center of Excellence Hyderabad is Target T3, where we are going to talk about technology tourism, technical tourism, and transformational tourism, which we are going to develop and focus on how these transformation things are going to impact. And yes, all the seniors, juniors, seniors have experience, juniors have speed. Just imagine the moment these two propellers are going to add to this engine, where we are going to move towards. Time has come that we need to collaborate, move forward, and ensure that things go in the right direction. Thank you all. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity.
Thank you, Niwas ji, for your insightful information on the way the technology will be moving forward. From technology, let us now move to how the technology adoption has happened in industry. And let us have an industry perspective from Mr. MPV. Please, sir.
Thank you, Abhay. Greetings to all. Trust all are safe and your near and dear ones in good health. Compliments to Borivali Study Circle for this very well conceptualized program. Journey from conventional to contemporary, an era of new opportunities for CAs. Sincere thanks to Durgesh Bhai for referring me and extending this invite. He's been doing a phenomenal work at the Institute. More specifically, the Center of Audit Quality is so passionately engaged there that any time of the day or night to touch him, he starts talking about audit. And personally, I'm very happy that we have a council colleague who is so passionately attached to improving the quality of audit. Thanks, Durgesh Bhai, on behalf of all the members for the passion with which you are working in that area, among others. Very happy to be speaking at the study circle to which our respected President Niharji is associated. And I have had the opportunity of working with few presidents, and is one of those who's been able to bring in very effective leadership. Sincere respects to past President Sri Subodh ji, and greetings to council colleague Daya and fellow speaker Naresh and all the other panel members. I keenly look forward to deliberating in the panel and to respond or interact on the various questions which might come. Let me take this opportunity to share a few initial thoughts. One, there is a general perception that industry and practice are different. I have been in practice as well as in industry. For me, both have been about leadership at workplace and subject matter expertise. Second, I see a generation now who will seamlessly move in their 40 years of career across industry, practice, teaching, research, and public service. I am not expecting too many people who will say that I'll work my entire 40 years in practice or industry. I don't think that will happen. I expect a generation where many of them will explore among all of these which I mentioned. For many in industry, I would encourage exploring practice with strong preference to join existing firms, leading them to next phase of growth. And for those in practice, to join industry and add the 10 or 15 years of entrepreneurship experience as a practitioner to the industry or the enterprise you join. Third, for me, Chartered Accountancy course has always been about entrepreneurship. When in practice, you are part of your own firm, collaborating with partners of the firm in building a practice. When in industry, you are working with diverse professionals in building a enterprise. And in employment, my experience, only those who work as intrapreneurs, INTRA, internal entrepreneurs, we call them in our corporate world as intrapreneurs, see career growth. Those who look at 9 to 5 jobs, they tend to stagnate. Fourth, as chartered accountants in industry, often I come across many who have an impression that their present job knowledge is enough. I am in treasury, I am in forex, I am in banking, I am in MIS, I am in internal audit. They tend to get to a zone of complacency. I would only caution that each of us in industry, whether we are in late 20s or 30s or 40s, each of us aspire to be a CFO, board members of respected organic companies, chair audit committees. Many aspire to become chief information officers or chief data officers, and there are few who also aspire to become CEOs. In all of these roles, a deep subject matter knowledge on accounting, audit, tax, corporate laws, FEMA, etc. makes a difference. 5. Most of us in industry work in companies which have multiple entities in the group. The group can be 3 companies, 5 companies, 10, but invariably, once a company reaches a size, there are multiple companies in a group. Just like in practice, a chartered accountant gets to work with multiple companies. In industry also, take the initiative and responsibility to get exposed to work in multiple group entities. There will always be cases of M&A, IBC, taxation of trust, whether it is for employee welfare or CSR or other trusts, taxation, direct and indirect, FEMA, etc. I have had consistent opportunities to deal with all of this in my role in the industry. For example, the whole promoter group with which I am associated, there are over 20 companies, all of whom follow Ind AS, have significant company law requirements, direct and indirect taxation, appeals, FEMA, etc. But importantly, what I like in industry is the accountability for shareholders' funds, bank public interest funds, welfare of several thousands of employees in your organization, indirect employment through vendors of the organization, the opportunity to make a difference to so many lives. While in practice, there is consultancy, audit opinions, engagements with company. The financial statements, primary responsibility is of the preparer. I would urge everyone in industry, each of you have some role in the financial statements which eventually come out. Enjoy the responsibility of being a preparer. 6. In industry, there is a need to perform every hour. I repeat, there's a need to perform every hour, not every day. Need to demonstrate relevance to multiple people, including team members. Many a time, there are landmines within the corporate setup, all of which you have to navigate carefully. Among the best things I like in the industry is that almost all the team members reporting to you are more competent than me and keep motivating me to perform more, to command respect with leadership and knowledge versus demanding respect for the question. The generation has changed, where this generation does not care anything about the title. For them, it's all about, irrespective of which role you are in, are you adding value to the job every day, every hour? Lastly, in this world which is getting digitalized at a huge pace, I see every business as only technology business. Daya mentioned about we starting the Digital Accounting Assurance Board. My strong belief and my experience having embraced technology way back in 2007, I gave up practice and joined the technology company because of my belief in the technology. And my view is, in today's context, there is no bank, there is no automobile company, there is no logistics company, nobody. Almost everyone is a technology company in the business of banking, HDFC. Technology company in the business of logistics, commute solutions, Tesla. And like this, every industry, this seems so much of a transformation that it's not just about digitalizing the process, it's a completely different mindset. And in all organizations, the preference is to align the chief information officer, the chief digital officer, some call it chief data officer, these roles to be aligned into the CFO office. These are all trends which are so very visible. With this initial thoughts, I look forward to interacting in the panel and also getting your perspectives on what you think about the industry. Thank you all for your patient listening.
Thank you, M P Vijaykumar. It's indeed a pleasure after hearing you, your initial address with respect to the opportunities which are available in the industry, and as far as the Daya has told about the technology. When technology and industry two are combined, then the other two aspects are equally important. When industry fails, how it is required to be resolved, and when industry grows, how it is required to be valuated and how the valuation is required to be done, and how we can expand the activities abroad. So what are the opportunities for the chartered accountants abroad? And for that purpose, we have another panelists with us. I would like to invite CS Subodh Agrawal ji with respect to the opportunities available in the field of insolvency and bankruptcy, how the resolution of various stressed industry are going to take place in this country, and how this particular code is evolving, and when it is going to be mature enough. Over to Subodh Agrawal.
Thank you, Durgesh Bhai, for inviting me, giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts with all of you sitting here, and also those participants are there, and moreover, giving me the opportunity to share the Daya virtually with MPB. I'm a fan of him because of his technical knowledge. Durgesh Bhai, Daya Niwas Bhai, and then also Naresh Phanfat, who is addressing to all of us from Dubai. And all of you friends, probably this is my first address to this particular study circle. Even during a council time, I did not meet or interact with all of you. But then thanks to COVID-19, has there was correctly said, which we could not practically do before COVID-19. Now we all are adopting to that. Today, virtual has become the norms of the day. Without virtuality, we cannot think of. The other benefit of virtuality is that earlier we used to talk about the foreign countries when we used to visit, say, developed countries other than Dubai or Middle East. We used to talk about that. See, you can correct your time. The meeting started correct at 8 o'clock in the morning. Likewise, today now you find that in COVID time, the virtual meeting start. Are you getting difficulty getting my voice? Okay, I'll connect.
Some disturbance.
How is it now?
No, it is quite okay.
Yeah, today, which we used to talk about the foreign Western country that meeting start at time and meetings concludes at time. Today, we can demonstrate to the entire world that in India also we start sharp at 5 o'clock. 5 means 5. That means I got a call from the organizer at 4:55. Mr. Agrawal, are you ready to join? Because other speaker panelists have joined. And then what is happening? Today, you are able to plan your visit, plan your meetings, plan your office work, because you know that the meeting will start at 5 o'clock, the meeting will conclude at 7 o'clock. So that's why I always start with thanks to COVID. COVID, though, it has a great impact, negative impact on the country, on the economy, on our friends. But then every challenge, as you said, from every challenge, we learn. Daya Niwas ji said, Dutch revolution takes overnight. In my case, in insolvency, yes, it happened. So first, before that, thanks to Durgesh Bhai, to Abhay Mehta ji, Hiren Mehta, Nilesh ji, and all other speakers also. And Durgesh has always been very kind to me. So whenever he got opportunity, he will ask me, Mr. Agrawal, if you are free, so that we can have a program. And if it is an insolvency program, probably I feel that he has obliged me by inviting me, because I am getting the opportunity to share my thought. That means getting opportunity to impose my thoughts on all of you, because you have no choice. Once I'm invited, you have to bear with me. Now coming back to the insolvency, how insolvency have changed the entire rule of the fiscal discipline in the country. Probably you will all agree, this is the biggest economic reforms our country has seen in last 1 or 2 decades. The kind of dynamic regulations, the act, this has been, probably yes, the GST has been one of the act, but then in this act, in last 4 years, there has been changes, amendment in the act more than 8 times. There has been amendment in the regulation more than 16 times, probably not. Now, if you are not keeping updated on a daily basis, or maybe on a weekly basis, you are redundant. So, Daya Niwas ji, technology makes the person redundant, but Insolvency Act is faster than technology. Technology may take time, 3 months to 6 months, but the insolvency even will not take a week time for you, because not only the act, not only the regulation, you need to keep track of the judicial precedents also. Now the judicial precedent, probably in our country, I always used to say, if you want to see our country to grow, I mean, the biggest hurdle, I'm sure this will not be shared with any of the judicial members. The biggest hurdle in our country is the judicial reform. If you find in our country, we always used to say in a Western country, if you are held guilty, of some cases are filed against you, probably in 1 year or 6 months, the verdict will come out. We have seen Rajat Gupta, how fast the matter was decided. In our country, we used, I mean, probably if you look back, Daya Niwas, you talk to your father, who is 75-year-old, that how much time it used to take to conclude any matter in NCLT, High Court, Supreme Court. Today, you won't believe, Daya Niwas, in case of insolvency and bankruptcy matter, you file the case in 1 week, 1 month to 2 months, you will get the result. It will travel from NCLT to NCLT to Supreme Court, and probably in 6 months you'll get the final verdict, and that becomes the law of the land. So that faster, and along with that, the government also taking, I mean, going side by side and step by step. I'll give you an example. I was attending one of the meeting in MCA where I was along with some of the RPs were invited, and there was some presentation where the chairman of the IBBI and the MC secretary was also there, not as a council member, but as an insolvency professional. It was sometime in March 2019. After the meeting was over at around 5 o'clock, they said that anything else? I said, yes, sir. I mean, I can share one of the hurdles in Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, that I find that this act says that even the government is one of the stakeholder, and any claim filed by the government is also the operational claims. But in practical, the NCLT is not, they are saying that, no, you go and settle with the government. Now that is bringing problem. I mean, the RH, the resolution applicant, the investors are not clear. And astonishingly, in next 15 days, I found that there was an NCLT judgment in case of the Synergy Dure, whereby it made clear that whether it is a government or anybody else, any claim against the services or supply of the goods will be treated as an operational creditor. Now, and thereafter, if you look at the judgment of the Supreme Court, I mean, I'm not talking about the NCLT. Now, there are plethora of judgments. Those who are practicing in NCLT, they will find that the first judgment started with innovative, and thereafter Swiss Rivan, Vijay Jain, K. Sasidharan, and then we all know SR Steel, and so on, so forth. And every judgment has laid the foundation of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code very strong. Today, why today we feel there is all scope and there is all probability that judicial reform will be there because of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. Why? More and more professionals like chartered accountants, like company secretary, cost accountant are attracted to IBC code, because if they go to the Insolvency and Bankruptcy, the resolution is very fast. The hearings are on a daily basis. As a professional, the more the hearing, the faster the hearing, the client will come to me. Have you ever thought of Hari Salve going and attending the hearing in NCLT? Only due to Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, it has been made possible. NCLT, you will find all top lawyers sitting there. Otherwise, you could not have thought of these top lawyers of the country other than going to the Supreme Court. Even High Court, they didn't used to go. The reason being, the stakes are high, till lakh crore. Now, you must have read the resolution period has reduced. I mean, the recovery period has reduced from 4.5 years to around 2 years. The recovery rate has gone up from 24% to 50%. Exactly, we will not say recovery. I mean, I will be reprimanded by the High Court or NCLT that it's not a recovery mechanism. It's a resolution mechanism. And my dear friends, it is truly a resolution mechanism. What is the difference between recovery and resolution? Who can better understand than a chartered accountant? What is the difference? If you talk about the surface side, it was the recovery. If you talk about the insolvency, it's the resolution mechanism. So, friends, I mean, for a chartered accountant, I think it's a boom. If you look at the code, if you look at the total number of members who have registered with the IBBI, and for that matter, Durgesh is the right person because he is the chairman of the IBC committee, and also he is in the IPA, that the monitoring, that the agency, the more than probably 60% are there in a chartered accountant. Why chartered accountant? Why we feel that chartered accountant are the right for that matter? Because over the period, rightly said by MPB and Daya Niwas, why that we have proved, we have come back from backroom to the boardroom, from the simple statistician to strategist. So today, probably the kind of quality required is there in us. With this short note, I'll hand over to the moderator, and I'll be very happy to respond to any query and participate in the moderation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, respected past President Subodh Agrawal. It's indeed a pleasure. The way you had explained the history of the evolving code, which is Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, and compared it with the technology, how fast it is changing, and how we are adopting it, and how it is resolving the various bad debts which are there or bad assets which are there. So with this, I'll come back to you again when we start with the panel discussion. But before that, we are having with us Mr. Naresh Phanfat, who is from Dubai. Basically, he is from Chennai, and he is here with us. He'll be dealing with valuation as well as opportunities abroad for the chartered accountants. Over to Naresh Phanfat.
Thank you so much, everybody. I'd like to begin with a note of gratitude to Durgesh ji for giving me this opportunity. Thank you so much, Nilesh ji, for coordinating the whole effort in such an integrated manner and such a timely and fantastic manner. MPV sir has been my professor 25 years back, so nice to see you, sir, on the same platform. Subodh ji, I've interacted with you indirectly because of a lot of overseas kind of activities, because Dubai chapter is one of the most active chapters internationally. And it was great to hear Mr. Daya's views about your technology imperative. Abhay ji, namaskar. So with this, I'd like to, the topics that have been given to me today are like twin subtopics. One is valuation, which is a subject matter which is very close to my heart. And the other one is opportunities abroad, or overseas opportunities for chartered accountants. So I'd like to just be very incisive and to the point, because the timeline is such that, okay, in order to be of any value, I'll just be covering bullet points about some thoughts that I have regarding these areas. First is valuation, which is often made a connotation in respect of, in terms of being both a science and an art. With the advancement of technology, the art part of valuation is having a greater significance in terms of the value that chartered accountants can add, because the science part is getting more and more templated, more and more automated, and more, what can I say, rule of thumb. So really, as a professional, the value that one can add in a valuation assignment more comes from the judgment, the experience, the art part of valuation. That's the first thing. In terms of definition of value in most of our financial reporting standards, we begin with the words that value of anything is the price that is paid, and then there are the standard terminologies. With due respect to any professional body or any financial reporting standard accounting body, I have my own personal opinion about this, that value, in my humble opinion, can be anything but the price, because what we see is price relates to more of a cost paradigm, whereas value remains a wealth or the worth paradigm. And according to Warren Buffett, price is what you pay and value is what you get. So, and it's a very long discussion, but just to keep it short, I think as a definition, it is good. But when it comes to application, when it comes to a deeper understanding, we should definitely relate it to more of a worth or a wealth paradigm than the price or the cost paradigm. So this is one thing. The other thing is, I feel that in a technology-driven world, like MPV sir rightly mentioned, which company is not a technology company, right? So either we are a fintech company or a legal tech or agri-tech or edu-tech or health tech. So technology is a given, it's an imperative. In such an era, I think, and particularly looking at the amount of data that is getting added to the world, it is going to go beyond human realms to actually deal with such gargantuan amounts of data. Just to give you some perspective, the world has added to itself the same amount of data or equivalent amount of data in the last 2.5 years that ever existed before that. So that's the pace at which we are moving. This is just one statistic. And if we feel that already the pace of change is something that is too much for us to take and then make any sense or insight out of this, let me assure you, we are at the slowest pace of change for the rest of our lives. So change is definitely the only constant, but change is definitely the only evolution that we have to take it as a challenge, right? So this is another thought I wanted to bring forth. And particularly, I think when we talk about valuation, no discussion can be complete unless we made a we've made a reference to the value proposition of intangible assets and intellectual property rights, which is where I see if we look at it in terms of a formula, there's a formula called Tobin's Q, which was propounded by James Tobin, which gives us a multiple of the value of a company or any asset base over and above the book value or over about the replacement cost of the book value. So just to give you an idea, for some of the largest companies in the world, around 85% of their value today is manifested in the form of intangible assets and intellectual property rights, the likes of patents, trademarks, copyrights, and so on and so forth. But in terms of disclosure, there have been some standard disclosures by people who would like to come forward and then disclose. But in my humble opinion, a lot needs to be still done in terms of making those disclosures mandatory and making the allowability. And some of the restrictions have been taken off. For example, there was a restriction around, any intangible asset in order to be recognized should be reasonably measurable. So those kind of conditions are now done away with. So that gives us an opportunity to try and evolve or brainstorm and deliberate and then finalize valuation standards which can be more relevant in terms of the value, the biggest proportion of value that we want to disclose on the financial statements, and thereby it becomes of a readable insight, meaning to the users of financial statements from a multiple stakeholder perspective. And then I come to my second twin topic today, which is opportunities for professionals, particularly chartered accountants abroad. I feel that in the recent times, before we talk about what kind of career opportunities could be there, I would like to pinpoint three most important things. So any chartered accountant or any professional for that matter, these are the quintessential imperatives to my mind. One is technology-driven skill advancement. So we have to adapt to being, if not tech native, at least we have to be tech professionally skilled, to my mind. The second is because I have lived and traveled in so many countries, I think more than 16 countries on over 600 projects in so many countries. What I felt is we are, as a fraternity, one of the strongest in terms of knowledge, acumen, and in terms of our breadth of expansive knowledge. But when it comes to presentation, when it comes to our soft skills, there is scope for being and doing better. This is something in all earnest I would like to urge that, I know Institute is taking a lot of measures to do these kind of programs, but it's also from the end of the students or the people who are learning or who are constantly wanting to be on the learning curve. This is also very important, but because at the end of the day, what is as important as the content and the knowledge is also the presentation, to my mind. And the third suggestion or the point that I would like to connote before I make some references as to the careers that would be in demand in future is having some sort of a collaborative platform which with interlinkages between different chapters that ICI has globally. And those collaborative platforms are not just going to be skill enhancement based. They are going to have those technology ready apps to be downloaded perhaps for networking. They can be for HR or job opportunities. They can be for some avenues where professional services may be required in different parts of the world, and more so as a digital platform. So COVID-19 has shaken the world in terms of what is no longer an option. So I think we should use this time to have a collaborative digital technology-driven platform where all the chapters can be interlinked and a lot of value can be brought out towards the whole enhancement of the value proposition of the fraternity as a whole. So this is my thought. In terms of career opportunities, I feel there is huge potential in internal audit. I can particularly talk about Gulf region, for example. Internal audit as a service avenue is hugely under-harnessed or under-tapped, at least in this part of the world. Then I can see huge potential for IT-related consulting or ERP implementation, because a lot of businesses are now waking up to the reality of they're having to do a lot of things on a tech-enabled manner. And also because of introduction of VAT a couple of years back in this part of the world, VAT or like GST in India, that's a huge opportunity for professionals to be part of. And one last thing I would like to mention is any kind of data-led, insightful professional service, which would be in the realm of business analytics, can be a huge differentiator. So I have many thoughts to share, but in the interest of time and in the interest that we all can collaboratively think together as a panel, I'd love to leave the floor for a commonality of discussion. So looking forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Naresh, for your really insightful thoughts on the valuation aspect. And I just saw on LinkedIn that you are also a follower of Ashwath Damodaran. So, and who will not be following Ashwath Damodaran once he's in a valuation sphere. And really, it has given even to Subodh also, we have got real good insights of how the IBC can shape up for our professionals. Now, not taking much of your time, we will enter the question and answer mode, where we would like to have more insight through our posers, and you will share your experiences, which will enlighten all the members who are present over here to hear the wisdom from you all. I will be starting with Mr. MPV on industry. So there are various opportunities in industry that you also mentioned. Can you summarize some of the niche areas where young professionals should concentrate to be in the industry space?
Yeah. In fact, there is definitely a growing niche area in the industry in area of business responsibility and sustainability reporting. In fact, the COVID-19 gave it a push, but otherwise it is an area which has been in works for a reasonably long time. And this business responsibility and sustainability reporting, which even SEBI has made it mandatory for the top 1,000 companies by market cap from next year, which incorporates the goals of ESG, environment, social, and governance. It involves a more understanding of the strategic direction of the organization, how to achieve those goals, and presenting it to stakeholders. That's a very, very sophisticated area. Then there are opportunities around leveraging knowledge of business, controls, accounting, assurance in area of digitalization of business. In fact, I just heard Naresh talking about his work experience across 600 projects and over 16 countries. So all of those opportunities to deliver comes from the fundamental knowledge of the business, the ability to understand business, understand controls, design controls, preventive, detective controls, and giving assurance. So in this era of digitalization of business, which includes something as simple as robotic process automation, and its next avatar, what is called intelligent process automation. My only submission is, do not see this activity as an information technology activity. Look at this as business process improvement activity. One common mistake I find among many who try to work in the space of digitalization is they start trying to learn how technology works. I'd strongly discourage that approach. I would rather encourage you to see and build skill sets on how to deploy technology and not bother about how this technology evolves. Look at how the technology can be put into use. And within almost all organizations, whether it is a medium-sized organization or large organization, entrepreneurs and business heads are looking at data visualization. They're looking at beyond basic analytics. They're looking at dashboards. They're looking at stories behind the numbers which are visible in the form of visual representation. With knowledge of business, leadership and entrepreneurship role, I would like to see many of the chartered accountants in industry focusing on building skill sets to become business leaders, CEOs, and why not entrepreneurs? Very simple reason. I have been in industry myself. In any company, if there is one function who has a 360-degree view of the organization and who has complete access to all activities and functions, it is the finance function. So my organization, we have about 60 people or so. I find these 60 people, their understanding of the whole company is far, far higher than anybody else in the organization. Given that unique position, I would like finance professionals to leverage and move to the next level. So I see that as a big opportunity.
Okay. So I think you have, Mr. MPV, you have also talked that there is a lot of things which technology has to be doing when we do some, what you can say, activity in industry. But technology should not, technology should be our slave and not the master. That's the message I think you have been providing. So now we move on to technology, where Daya Niwas ji has to address this issue. So what do you consider Daya Niwas ji as technology which is relevant for accountants and to which they should have an exposure?
Thank you very much, Avaji. My apology that I'm in a car, but I hope I'm audible.
Yeah. You're
Consider
audible.
technology which is relevant for accountants. Very rightly said by MP sir, and I would like to continue from there. When you're talking about, most of the people have been thinking that technology means you need to understand the programming language. Rather, I was telling in one of the seminars which we had in Hyderabad, which MP sir always praises, is on the profession 2.0, robotic process automation. I'm just extending your point, MP sir. Robotic process automation is the robotic and automation is of the technology person, but process is of chartered accountant. I think this is something which we need to really understand. The link between the robotic and automation is nothing but a process, and that is where the chartered accountant can actually play a role, because he understands the implications of any process not being followed. That is one of the most important part. And second part, when we talk about, is from an accountant to an advisor when we want to be, the most important part is to play around with data. So data analytics is going to be one of the most important part in the entire discussion. I'll just tell you one simple example, Abhijit. I was interacting with one of my clients who does primarily one particular activity in the United States of America. Primarily, he collects, their office goes and collects the data with regards to all the, pharmacists, what kind of medicines are being sold in every store. And they create a data analytics out of it. And they said that this is the kind of medicine you need to sell it in this particular store. And this is the kind of medicine you need to sell it in other store. Because the age group of people have been different in different localities and the type of medicine which is being purchased. Now, what it means is, if you want to analyze the numbers, data analytics understanding is one of the most important aspects in a chartered accountant to be an advisor in times to come. We have to move out from that data processing to data analysis, which is one of the most important thing which I personally consider. Second thing is with regards to cyber security. Just we completed the first course of cyber security today only in Digital Accounting and Assurance Board. And we had 50 participants where we took them to the entire process and made them understand that you need not be an expert in the technology side. You need to understand which are the risk areas which are actually going to get impacted and how it is going to impact your financial stability of your organization when data is being stolen, and how the data can actually go to the competitors and how people are getting engaged. I don't know whether it's the ethical hacker or whichever hacker, they actually collect the data and actually get into a different zone. And more importantly, the last one, the most important one is the systems audit, which is one of the most crucial thing. We have 28,000 chartered accountants who have qualified DISA. But the focus of passing DISA was from a point of view to get the bank audit or might be a concurrent audit. But I think the entire firm is just going to change with regards to the systems audit in times to come. And sir, one thing which I would like to tell each one who are participating today, how do we gear up is something which we need to really think about. You start implementing in your own office a cybersecurity framework. What are the firewalls you should have? Because a lot of information of your client is lying in your systems also, which are exposed to various internet connections and all. So that data is actually going to get exposed to multiple people when they want to search out. Similarly, when you talk about the systems audit is no more a system audit which is need to be done with a large assignment. Everywhere today, whether you talk it from a retail store also, they have point of sale machines, and lots such systems are being managed. And if we start guiding first our firms internally, second our peers, primarily sharing what is that you are doing, what is that I am doing, and third is basically doing an implementation in one of our friends clients where we can do a small system audit framework which can be actually taking us to a different position. So the point is, it is time where we need to start step by step. We have been people who are doing number crunching all throughout, and now we are moving towards a process orientation, which is one of the most important part. When Subodh sir talked about one particular aspect with regards to the judiciary and the kind of data which is available today, when we go to income tax department today, the people are actually being hired are the IRS people who are being trained on multiple systems. And might be you and I will not have the fullest information of our client, but the income tax officer has that. So how do we actually evolve from that position to a position where we are able to cater to that kind of information, that when you are providing a professional service, how do we move forward is something which we need to really look into. And that means that you need not go and explore. You please go and see the recent MOUs and MOUs which are being signed between different departments, where earlier, if you remember, VAT was not knowing what is income tax turnover. Income tax turnover was not knowing what Companies Act turnover is. But today, with the signing of MOU between all these departments, it is click of button, the information is getting exchanged between the departments. That means technology is actually come into the departments at a larger level. We are moving towards a regulated India. We are not anymore a divided India in form of the regulators or might be the government bodies. So all these things need to be understood very effectively. And first, you read what is available, what is the change which is coming in, and then start adopting. Let us take an example of the new income tax return. You only have to go and do certain edits, and your 26AS picks up all the information, including your transactions which have happened in whether you're a broker or sub-broker. So this is what we need to really, think about how this transformation is coming in and start learning towards where we go and fit into it and how do we guide our clients. That is my take on it.
Okay, Durgesh.
Thank you, Daya. Moving on to Subodh, with respect to the insolvency and bankruptcy, do you feel, Subodh, that at the macro level, the insolvency reform in the form of IBC code has recast the rules of the game for all the market participants? You're on mute, sir.
I foresee the biggest advantage of introduction of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code has been the fiscal discipline, which has invariably attributed in the economic growth to the extent it is possible. Though someone of us will say that in the last 4 years, the GDP has gone down. Probably if insolvency would not have been there, it would have been contracted more than what it was. We know that in the during the COVID first quarter, it was minus 23%, which is going to be minus 10%. But in the long run, we know that it is bouncing back. Now, if I analyze it dispassionately, we look to the reform from the macro perspective, then I use a metric which is readily available, easily understood, and amenable, then when I analyze the code, the initial of the code, which says that what is the objective of the code? Maximization of the value, promoting the entrepreneurship, availability of the credit, balancing the interest of the stakeholder, and resolution over liquidation. Now, if I look at it, some of the creditor may prefer recovery in the metric, but then since the objective has been to resolution, the IBC has been to a great extent has been successful in resolving the cases. If I look at the data, you will find that around 60-70% of the company has gone into liquidation. But which company has gone into liquidation, we need to dive into depth. Those who were critically ill and where they were sick company, and we got it from last 10 to 20 years, and there were no possibility of resolution. It is better to use the resources of the country, a company's resource. It's not an individual resource. It's not a promoter's resource. It's a company's resource. Now, ultimately, it is contributing in the GDP. Now, if you look at pre-insolvency and bankruptcy code, as I initially also said, there was barrier in entrepreneurship because the entry was easy, exit was difficult, which was a constraint to the foreign investor. The recovery was very less, and the defaulter has the option to drag the company into dispute for years altogether. I have not come across by using the RBI NPA. Any company could have been resolved in 1 decade or 2 decades. Here we have an example where top 12 companies which were dragged into insolvency, and company like SR Steel could be resolved in 300 plus days. I mean, not 300 plus days, around 900 days it could be resolved. So the dispute period has been, we have been able to brought it down to much less. So I feel I'm of the strong view that it has recast the rule of the game for the benefit of the economy of the country.
Thank you, Subodh. Moving on to Naresh Phanfat. Valuation is an evolving and emerging area of profession in India. What is the scope for valuation services? And do you consider increased M&A activity provides enough space for providing valuation services?
Yeah, I think, thank you for this question. Great to share my views on this. First of all, valuation in itself is ever evolving. So just to mention the second part first, which is the M&A part, in the aftermath of COVID, what has happened is a lot of value is available cheap. A lot of people are under pressure. The business focus paradigms have shifted. So the business focus has shifted from growing profitably to at least making sales, and then the focus from sales has shifted to survival, where are you able to meet your commitments or not. So because of this aftermath, a lot of value was available cheap, and to my mind, mid of 2020 to 2021 has been one of the biggest deal-making years so far that I have seen in my career. Many of them have been announced, many of them are still private, but a lot of value which was hidden and which was available very cheap at a negotiable sort of capacity price was harnessed. A lot of deal frenzy had taken place. What was the first question about valuation? Durgesh ji?
What is the scope of valuation?
Scope for valuation services, yeah. I think
valuation.
So
whether this M&A activity will provide the scope of valuation. Services.
Yeah, I think valuation is a realm that knowingly or unknowingly we all encounter and we all deal with in our day-to-day lives, whether it's the price of onions, whether it is what's happening in terms of so many fluctuations, oil prices, M&A deal making, company prices. How come in such an unprecedented grave time, almost all asset classes are quoting at their lifetime highs? So these are the kind of questions we need to ponder on. In terms of scope for valuation, it has always been there, but now I feel that the need has come to streamline this as a separate line of activity. And it's very heartening to note that even the likes of Big Four have given due credence to it as a separate line of professional services, which is valuation services. So some call it deal advisory, some would call it valuation services. But in terms of scope, it has huge implications, ramifications, and scope potential. Because the objectives or the purposes for which valuation is required is not just mergers and acquisitions. So you need it for, let's say, startups are now on a rage, like MPV sir mentioned. And because I'm on the Dubai government's incubation authority steering committee for the last 3-4 years, I deal with a lot of startups. So in the startups fraternity, they need to do fundraising at the minimum. They need to have co-founders, so they need valuation. Even in our individual capacity, at the time of, let's say a divorce, you need to value the worth of the person in case of a claim on the whole worth of the person. Then, of course, for M&A, then you need valuation for ESOPs, employee stock option plans, joint venture. So valuation is an absolute imperative, I think. Whether it manifests itself on the face of it or not, we need to deal with it on a sort of regular basis. So valuation as a scope, to me, is only going to get more and more felt in terms of the need, and in terms of how we can streamline this. As a career option, it's a great option for someone, particularly in the investment banking field. If someone is interested, it's a great opportunity. That is an interplay between what one learns within the subject matters of what is covered theoretically in the CA examination, and then the corporate finance or the MAFA subject as such, and then the valuation part. So this is the cross section of all these three together. So as a career opportunity also, it is huge. And my one quick guidance on this part will be, if someone is really keen on taking on valuation services as a career, particularly in the investment banking area, they should look for initially getting on to a right brand, and not look for a huge salary. Because early on in your career, what you should get is a good branding, even if it starts with an internship, but at a very reputed brand, particularly for people who are interested in MNC jobs or overseas jobs or investment banking. So that's one way possible. I'm giving you twin answers related to valuation as a potential, and also as a career for people.
Thank you, Naresh. And as you know, the valuation of the companies will increase with the manpower which they are deploying. So again, coming back to Mr. MPV, since the industry, there are now 80% of the chartered accountants going into industry, there is always a perception that they are short of time, and which hampers their upgrading of the skill sets. And you have been at both ends of the profession. And how do you perceive this argument?
Interesting question. It is definitely not about time. Professionals in industry are equally well placed to upgrade skill sets with on-the-job understanding, which is critical component in upgrading skill sets than any certifications. Just for your information, my experience in industry, we have fairly intense learning sessions, and almost all companies now, we have quarterly appraisal systems. And in the quarterly appraisal systems, among the various sections, one section is always an L&D section where the employee concerned needs to identify areas for adding skill sets. The appraiser and reviewer also identifies. So my view is, while outside world may not know much, but within the organizations, there's a huge emphasis on ensuring continuous learning and development. And the employees are also very conscious of participating in that L&D because they know that they cannot survive if they are not up to date. The intent to upgrade skill sets is what matters, in my view, whether you are in industry or in practice. So in industry, if somebody has an impression that they don't have time, I'm sorry about it, that they have such impression, but my experience is quite different. There is huge amount of investments done for upgrading skill sets, and in many organizations, we send people on a sabbatical to do a mid-career business school programs, which can be 6 months, 1 year, 1.5 year programs. And there are many programs where we depute people to go and do for 4 weeks, 6 months, 6 weeks. Maybe we don't do so much of the institute-based programs, but a substantial amount of money is certainly spent on employee skill sets, because for us, a knowledgeable employee matters, and hence organizations do invest on that, and there's a lot of focus on quality learning.
Okay. So now when we talk about learning, Niwas, technology, the way it is going ahead, I think that is a lot of technological prowess which will have to be developed by our professionals. And is it possible for all the age group of professionals to develop such? I will like to add one more nuance on it, that now many of the manual functions of our professional, what you can say, deliveries are now technologically advanced. And there is the technology involved in many of the manual processes which are being done. And whether this trend is positive for the profession, and do you feel that many of the professionals will become redundant? And you add with that technological prowess how to not become redundant?
Thank you. It's a very interesting question. First, I'll answer one very strong message from my side. CAs will never become redundant. We were relevant yesterday, we are relevant today, and we will be relevant tomorrow. That is a message which I would like to give it to each one of our members. And when we talk about prowess, yes, that skill set which we need to get in. I'll tell you one thing very simple, Avayji. Act is same, laws are same. Is there any change in the act and law because of technology? I don't think any changes come in the act and law, particularly when you talk about ROC written filing. A director is a director, company is a company, incorporation is an incorporation. I might have been doing a manual filing in the past. But when you see, technology is actually a vehicle on which we are moving forward. It is not a road. It is not a road. It is a vehicle in which we are moving forward. We might have to shift from a car to flight, flight to train, train to something else. But what I would like to say is very clearly, the acts have been same. No need to worry. It's basically the way we are going to use technology is going to be a difference, right? And adoption of system. Where is that our chartered accountant has lost the touch? When I remember my father, when he used to take a white piece of paper, put a T and start working on the profitability, income, expenditure, what should be the profit and how the calculation of tax is going to come. Now that is actually put into the system. That's it. So technically, I am going to save a lot of time by adopting technology. Now, when you talk about adopting technology, what we need to understand is the technology tool which is available, which is useful for me. I am not telling you to go and develop a tool. I am telling you, there are 10 tools which are available in the market. Out of 10, which is going to be useful for me, and what are the additional features which are there that I need to get, right? So when it is, the manual functioning, I am happy that it is going off. Technically, if you see, if there is a barcoding which is there for a sale to be made, a barcoded purchase I have done, the accounting entry is gone into the system, and I am not going to waste time determining the HSN code and the rate at which I need to go line by line in a transaction. Rather, I am actually going to use that to make it more effective. Might be I was working till night 12 o'clock, I can go home by 8. So that is how I look at this transformation time. And I think people unnecessarily are getting into a mode that we are not going to be relevant in time to come. We will be more relevant in time to come, because when you talk about a transparent economy, that means the governance is one of the most important aspects. And the governance, if it has been put in rightly by technology adoption, I think the transaction which have been above the table, down the table, we do not know anything. It is going to just hit the machine and it is just going to move on. I think, we are getting unnecessarily worried that we will not be relevant, because we are going to be more relevant tomorrow, because my brains as chartered accountant is going to be used for strategy making. My brains are going to be used for supporting people like MPV sir who are sitting in industry. So saying that, okay, Daya, I want you to kindly go and do this particular analysis and get it back to me. Because every industry is not going to have 60 people, 70 people, or 200 people. There are MSMEs which are there. There are large organizations which are there. All set of organizations are going to evolve, and they are going to take your services more qualitatively than what was been happening in past. From a ticking of a voucher, if we are moving towards analyzing the proprietary of the transaction and evaluating my top line and bottom line, I need not worry about it. If my middle numbers are going to be managed well with some kind of data analytics, how the peer industry is actually doing, what is my gross profit margin ratio, what is my employee ratio, what is the other things which are going to come. That kind of analytical thinking is going to add more and more. So we need not worry. We are not going to be redundant at any given point in time. That is my confidence for this profession. And yes, it is going to be more of demand. Sir, little difference, MPV sir, I give on a thought process. Abhayji, even Subodh sir will agree to that fact. Time where we are thinking today, the large number of chartered accountants going to industry and very few are left out in profession. And that is going to be the niche area, and the demand and the quality of the profession is going to go high. The charge out rates are going to go high. The quality of service is going to go high. This is something which we need to, it's a interdependent and it's a balanced world. It cannot be, that only one thing is going to go and other thing is going to collapse. No, there are people who are having that thoughts. Might be out of 10, 8 might go in industry, but 2 have that value system to get into practice. And MPV sir, you will also agree, when you move to industry from practice, your knowledge of practice will make whole lot of difference when you get and sit on the chair of a CFO. So this all things are going to evolve. Many people from industry are coming back to practice because they want to be a virtual CFO. How is it possible? So this is all which is going to be adopted in times to come. And I think I gave my message very clearly.
Thank you, Niwas. It's really a good thing to know, and you have provided a cushion to all the chartered accountants that they are not going to be redundant, in spite of the technology is going to take place in the profession. But yes, if they use technology, they are going to be much useful, much better, and they will be very much useful in the profession.
1 point, Durgesh bhai, 1 point. Fate of many organizations is going to depend on judgment of a chartered accountant to say that this software is right or wrong. That's the only message.
That's very right, very right. With this, thank you, Daya, and we move to Subodh. And Subodh, for you, what skill set, as far as the insolvency is concerned, what skill set do you perceive the chartered accountant should possess to become insolvency resolution professional? Should they wear the hat of an accountant or more of a legal or economic evaluator? You are on mute, sir.
Durgesh bhai, I fully concur with MPB, Daya, Niwas bhai, and Naresh bhai. Redundancy. I'll come back to the redundancy. Before that, I am reminded one quote by Albert Einstein, who said, "Learn from yesterday, live for today, hope for tomorrow. Important is not to stop questioning and questioning to yourself." Now, first, what redundancy? What message MPB gave? Updating yourself. What message Daya Niwas gave? Updating, upgrading yourself. What message Naresh gave? Again, updating yourself. Look for the right company. Now, the more point that is coming back is boiling down to adaptability. Now, if the requirement of day is to adopt, look at the requirement says that the days are gone, the volume is very high, the data volume is very high. 20 years back, when I started my articleship journey, that time the data used to be very less. What was the size, GDP size of the country? Very small size. And the analysis required was not there. So that time manual was possible. Then slowly and gradually, the way the country started growing, we started from 386 computer to 486 to whatever, I don't know now. There are so multiple variant of the computer that even the computer you buy 2 years back, you find today is redundant. Now today, as I said in my opening remarks, if I not update myself for a week in insolvency and bankruptcy court, probably not only act, not only regulation, but on the judicial precedent, which is the enabling thing which allows me. Now coming back to the question that you have raised on the skill set. The skill set, the first thing I will say, the adaptability. That is the most important skill set that is required, not only insolvency professional, but any professional, whether he's working or he is in practice. Now, boiling down to chartered accountant, we have proved over last 70 years, we are the most trusted business advisor. And what is our USP? As a chartered accountant, 3 years of articleship. Now, I cannot be master of all. I can be master of only 1 or 2 topics. I wonder sometimes if somebody starts speaking on 5 topics, which is not humanly possible. And we should today, in today's era, we should not try to be jack of all, but then master of one. Now, the most important, along with the adaptability that is required for a successful insolvency professional, is analytical skill, which is required in the technology also. So I'll again break down the technology. What they always say, or our council member says, ABCD. That is, anybody can dance. Any chartered accountant can be an insolvency professional. What he requires is ABCD. Now, that whatever intelligence, what you talk about, artificial intelligence, blockchain, or cyber security, or cloud, or blah 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 blah. So how do you learn that? Even at the age of 60, there are people who have passed the exam. Now, so along with the adaptability, you need to have an analytical skill, critical thinking, interpersonal communication, time management, industry knowledge. I'll say, if it is there for a particular industry where you are an insolvency professional, so far so good. Otherwise, leadership quality, if that is there, imbibed on you, you are given opportunity to hire the professional. I mean, you need to have those professionals in your panel, and then you need to have a good team. If you have a good team to support you, all kind of quality can be hired. If you are a council member, I mean, I think that council members are a good leader. I mean, a council member is perfect to be an insolvency professional, or for that matter, I'm not saying those 300 people who are sitting here and listening, they cannot be. I mean, a chartered accountant himself is the best suited to become an insolvency professional. So adaptability and then a leadership. Over to you.
Durgesh bhai, can I just add something?
Yeah, please.
Just for the benefit of all the members who are listening. In fact, I don't know how many of you know Subodh ji, but I want to share my personal experience of having seen him. I saw him somewhere, maybe 2012-13. That was my first interaction with him. He will not remember me, remember having interacted with me, but I have seen him at that time, and very brief interaction. And he came across as somebody who was a strong administrator, strong in taxation, but I never got a feeling that he was somebody very good at accounting, auditing. I'm very candid as I always am. But around 2016, that was the time when Ind AS came in and IFRS and all came in. Trust me, friends, I've heard so many people on Ind AS and particularly on financial instruments. Financial instruments is considered to be an extremely complex standard. And at that time, I saw this man completely transformational. I was actually stuck to my seat for a long time. The way he was able to speak on financial instruments, interpret clauses, and give examples. And I always believe that if somebody can explain something in simple words, which means he's very strong on his subject knowledge. And around that time, he had done lots of Ind AS transition assignments and signed some overseas bank financial statements. I asked him why did you get there? I was so impressed. I just wanted to know how this transformation. He said, look, my basic instinct of learning is there. And I was keen that having headed the institute, which is an accounting body, I wanted to ensure that I'm top of the accounting subject. And it was a huge transformation. Maybe he would have been maybe mid-50s or late 50s at the time. I don't know his age. And 3 years later, the moment insolvency came, he said he just abandoned Ind AS. He abandoned Ind AS like it was an orphaned child. He said, Ind AS ka zamana ho gaya, theek hai, main jo karna kar liya, bas kar. And then he moved on to insolvency and no looking back. And today is one of those most sought after insolvency professionals. The message, and I don't know his age, maybe he's late 50s or whatever, I don't know. But the message I'm saying is a person who is such an accomplished person with the humility to learn something as voluminous as Ind AS and IFRS. And I'm not exaggerating, I'm not capable of adding an extra word for those who know me personally. And when I say that, I mean it. And second is on insolvency, the way it's demonstrated. The point I'm highlighting is for learning, if you have that resolve inside, it's there. And that's fundamental to the profession. Thank you, Subodh, for being such an inspiration. I'm so sorry if I have spoken out of my heart. If there is something wrong, please forgive me.
Publicly, I will not say my age. You can say.
But MPV sir, I think he is an example for many of us in more than one way.
Very true. Thank you, MPV. And now I move to Mr. Naresh. Mr. Naresh, instead of valuation, now you have the another subject, which is the opportunities abroad. And when we talk of opportunities abroad, currently there are around 28 countries. The ICI is having the 42 chapters or so. Can you briefly explain the role of the chapters as well as what professional opportunities are available to Indian CAs on account of setting up of these chapters?
So thank you for the question and enlightening as to totally how many chapters are there. But I'm fortunate enough to be in Dubai, which has been continuously voted as one of the most active and one of the best performing overseas chapters. And we are fortunate enough to have some visionary sort of leaders heralding out of this part of the world, where a lot of professional development seminars, symposiums, sessions, including networking and family events are happening. I believe that overall globally, if there are so many chapters, like you mentioned, there are about more than 40 chapters. Most of the sessions that are happening, at least from this part of the world, I would say, is a mix of professional development, entertainment, family event. But there is one scope of area where I felt that there could be a possibility of adding greater value from a future perspective, which is again coming from the fact of collaborating all the overseas chapters and linking it to the mother institute, which hails out of India, where opportunities are no longer confined to being a Dubai opportunity or a US sort of New York opportunity or London or Delhi or Mumbai opportunity. If there is a right man for the right job, he should have access to that opportunity. I think if all the chapters can come together and work in terms of collaborating as a digital platform, not just in terms of opportunities, even for networking, skill development, digital events like the one that we are doing currently. I'm sitting out of Dubai, but I'm doing a session for Mumbai society, which is very good. I think so. This is one of the things I would say. In terms of chapter expansion, I think that the pace at which the institute has been able to have so many chapters is commendable. At least in the not so very distant past, I remember CA Prabdeep Baveja from this part of the world. He has managed to have so many new chapters. I was surprised that they are now emanating out of Africa, which is fantastic, right? So with all kudos to his efforts. So my point is, if we can do this in Africa and we can reach the far-flung areas of Africa, then if we have a mix of developed markets, emerging markets, frontier markets, and then link it to the mother body, which hails out of India, there is no limit to what we can achieve. And I would like to have a slightly divergent opinion. I hope Mr. Daya Niwas will not mind. And also taking the fact from the whole sense that he himself propounded that the balance is necessary. So I would take the other side also, so that this session is also balanced in our deliberations. I feel that it's heartening to note that everything will be good, and I'm also pretty confident that we'll all be there when the opportunity arrives. But I would like to also then add this other side of the balance, which is we should also have an internal shake-up every single morning we wake up. And that's what our anthem inspires us to do, because we are awake when the whole world is sleeping. So which is where I would personally, in my humble opinion, like to bring forth this point, that we should not take it as a complacent, false sense of security, that everything will be okay and always the world will look up to us as for any opportunity. Because as the world is opening up, as the opportunities are coming up, there are a lot of new players who are entering the realms of what are the possibilities, including technology. Technology is one of the biggest competitors. So not so much so to present a divergent view, but in order to have a balanced discussion or dialogue here, I think both the sides are very important. We should be awake and agile to the opportunities, and we are very confident we'll be the best people to deliver and rise to the occasion. But at the same time, we should come out of this false sense of security or complacency and give ourselves and the fraternity enough efforts and endeavors to live up to the expectations, not just for Mother India, but for our ICI also. This is a way I'd like to present. Yeah.
Thank you, Naresh. Yes, indeed, what you said is very right. I think we will move from the reverse direction now. We had two questions from this direction, so we will start with Naresh again. And now, very quick question, because the time is very less. So one question will take. So let us be very fast in giving the reply also. And I would like to say, can young professionals consider gaining expertise by employing themselves with leading merchant bankers and investment bankers with respect to the valuation?
So yeah, very good question. And like MPV sir was mentioning, there are numbers and then there are narratives, right? We are the best people to understand the story behind the numbers. And as data is getting enormous, as financial standards are getting more complex, as financial statements are becoming more ununderstandable by the wider public, chartered accountants are at the forefront of leading the way as to making the best sense out of numbers, analyzing, and then imparting that sense to the wider diaspora. So definitely, it's a very pertinent question, and I think we are best placed to take that as an opportunity. I'm keeping my answer simple.
Thank you. Moving on to Subodh, what areas of opportunities you can identify for the chartered accountants in the whole process of insolvency proceedings beyond IRP and RP? Again, you have to unmute, sir.
Sorry again and again. Not one, even you can't practice today. If you have no knowledge of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, you need to analyze the balance sheet of your client and make them aware that who are the debtors and creditors. If there are creditors sitting in your client's balance sheet, you need to warn them that if there is any overdue, any fine morning, the client may get a notice that vacate this position, give it to some of the IRP, RP. If there are debtors, you are the best person to advise them. Fine, why you are sitting idle and going to the recovery mechanism? And then why don't you file the petition under the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code? And quickly, valuation, Naresh topic, appear before NCLT, huge scope. NCLT, where the chartered accountants can go. Taking the transaction audit, forensic audit. I mean, since the certification course is there, so we can do that. Support in claim verification. And then if you go on, the big opportunity in the preparation of the resolution plan, where people are charging from 10 lakhs to 50 lakh rupees, because it needs varied knowledge. Not only, it's not a cut and paste. You need a technical knowledge on IT. You need a technical knowledge on many other things, where probably I feel with the background of IBC code for a chartered accountant, taking up the assignment of the resolution plan is also fantastic. And then the process advisor, so on, so forth. Full stop.
Thank you, Subodh. Now I move to Daya again for technology. And in technology, the way the technology growth is there, leaps and bounds. Do you think that this technology is bridging the gap between the SMPs and the big four firms? Or I will not say big four, but the bigger firms. And what are the steps I will like to include along with this? If the technology gap is being shortened, then what are the steps which the institutes has taken as initiatives, which has enabled the SMPs to come out to take up the products and the services which are technology driven and which empowers them to be equivalent to the big fours?
A very heart-touching question it is, because I was fortunate to be part of the networking guidelines which has been made in the institute. And MPV sir, you know that kind of meetings, we had 21, 22 meetings which we have done for the networking guidelines, and we created 3 models. First and the foremost thing, let me compliment the institute first, who has given us always the best. And you will not believe, Abhayji, that I don't think anywhere in the world this 3 networking models which are being introduced by ICI, any mature other institute has done that. So that is one point, which is the networking guideline. Before going to the networking guideline, we actually thought about what are the shortcomings which are there, and primarily our 70% of the practice, right, practicing firms are proprietary concerns. That means, and if I want to take it on a different calculation, we don't have 29 firms, which is equal to 29 states, which has more than 50 partners. So this is the kind of gap which is there. Now, technology, when you are talking about today, what was happening is across the length and breadth of the country, people are spread across. When you talk about a Mufasal area or a tier 2, tier 3 city and the main city, what is happening in challenging cities are we do not get quality people there. But whereas we have some people sitting in the other side of the country, whether it is a village, town, city, whatever we call, they are tied up only during the tough time, the peak time of income tax audit or GST audit. And the balance period is on a general practice mode. And with the transforming time, with the government adopting to the technology, it is a good thing that if we get into a networking, though we continue to own because we are sentimentally attached to our names. So what is going to happen in times to come is we need to actually get these two things together. Primarily, I might own my firm, but I might have networking partners of 50, 100, 200, 500, I don't know. So if you want to bridge the gap, see, what is a big firm? Big firm is a conglomerate of all individuals who are sitting in there. And today, if you don't want to form a big firm, you still want to own your thing. Networking guidelines is going to give us that kind of opportunity for people to actually come together, network. Might be I have a client and you have a knowledge, right? Or might be Naresh has knowledge and I'll get a client to him saying that, look, this is my client, I want a valuation to be done. I might go to Subodh sir. So that networking process, we are going to launch one very beautiful site in time to come, might be on 1st July or 30th June. You have to watch, which is a marketplace for chartered accountants, which is going to be very unique. I have my limitations to share certain things where people can cross-sell each other. Might be as a chartered accountant, I have a limitation to do advertisement, but as an institute, which has come forward to make a larger platform for people to get connected and share their knowledge and their experience, their client, everything. I don't think, again, if we are actually able to explore this opportunity effectively, then the gap is not going to be there. It is going to be a bridge for connecting all people across the length and breadth of the country and internationally also with 47 chapters.
Okay. Thank you, Niwas. I will move to MPVG. There is always a debate that in industry, a person should be a generalist or a specialist. So you throw light on that. Along with that, if an executive joins in the organization in corporate finance, in accounting, or in internal audit, how do you perceive the scope of him climbing up the ladder?
I think two good questions, Abhay. I'll keep it brief in the interest of time. First, as far as the terminology of generalist and specialist, at least in my industry experience, we don't come across those terminologies. Whether it is people in my finance organization or when I recruit people, we broadly have two categories of people depending on their aptitude, each finance professional's aptitude and the size of the function. We have people who are focused in a function: direct tax, indirect tax, treasury, banking, financial reporting, company law. And there are some who demonstrate capabilities in terms of they have experience, they have the capability, they have that specialization of handling cross-functional teams, they have ability of leading larger teams and all. Consequently, they are treated as people who have expertise or specialization around that. So for me, both of them are specialists, either niche area or little broader area. So both I treat them as specialists because at times generalist is considered to be somebody lower in terms of IQ compared to a specialist. So that's a terminology I don't encourage. As far as the growth for executives who are joining to begin with in internal audit, accounting, tax, corporate finance, I think the corporate ladder, the opportunities are phenomenal. And we have lots of examples of chartered accountants who have grown to lead those professional organizations. Take someone like Mrs. Chitra Ramakrishna. She was the CEO of the world's most sophisticated stock exchange, National Stock Exchange. In terms of technology, she built one of those finest stock exchanges. Similarly, we have people like Ms. Naina Lal Kidwai, Mr. Keki Mistry, Aditya Puri, and there's several names, Seshasai of Ashok Leland. So there's several people all of them have started as executives or management trainees, and in a 25-30 year career, they've gone to become CEOs. Just one statistic, in UK, the Financial Times Stock Exchange, the companies listed there, 20% of the CEOs of the companies listed in London are people with an accounting qualification. So that probably is a good metric to tell that chartered accountants do evolve and end up leading organizations.
Thank you. I think organizers, can you give us in that how much time we have so that we will accordingly ask the questions.
You can continue, sir, for 5-10 minutes, no issue.
Okay. So we will take one question, Durgesh.
One round.
One round.
Yes.
Fine. We'll do it. So moving to again, Naresh ji, it's a rapid fire kind of round now. So it has to be very fast. And that is with respect to the, again, valuation. What should be the approach to value technology startups and how different it is from valuing brick and mortar business?
Yeah, so I would just again bulletize my answer. First is the definition of what a technology company is itself is getting more and more blurred, because every single company with the technology imperative is a technology company in a different area. But if I adhere to the pertinence of your question, if it is a technology company per se, the way we understand it, it could either be a technology product company or a service company or a platform company. So technology product company is more in lines with a manufacturing company or a trading company in terms of having the products and then the sales and the costs of it. So it lends itself to a more profit margin or a growth in revenue kind of a metric to base your value on. But if you are a SaaS model or a service-based company, the metrics and the models will be very different. And we also have to understand that technology company has one of the biggest Tobin's Q. By that, what I mean is they have one of the biggest intangible quotient. So most of their value will come from their brand name, HR quotient, their software, which is the biggest part of the repetitiveness of their revenue. So that's also a value metric. One last point I want to quote about technology company valuation is, in the case of a normal company, we use a PE ratio to determine how overvalued or undervalued a company is with respect to its peer group in the industry. In the case of a technology company, normally you'll see the PE ratios at the highest end of what we can think a PE ratio can reach. I'll take a quip. The last I remember in terms of the year 2000 peak of the boom, I remember the shares of Wipro were quoting at a PE ratio of 600 times, right? And these are factual numbers. So what happens in the case of a technology company is the more relevant metric is not PE ratio, but a PEG ratio, because they're growing so fast. So for us to be able to compare one technology company with another, we have to divide the PE ratio with the growth rate in their earnings or in their revenue or income, and then analyze as a metric for valuation. So these are broadly some of the differences.
Great. Thank you. Moving to Subodh. Subodh, very recently, the insolvency, the parliament has promulgated a new amendment in the IBC with respect to the pre-packaged insolvency resolution process for the MSME. So how do you see that how it is going to help the MSME, and what will be the role of the chartered accountants to assist their client with respect to the pre-packaged insolvency resolution process? Again, sir, unmute.
I'm so disturbing factor, so I ensure that I don't disturb anybody, and that's why I mute myself immediately. Durgesh, probably this is one of the most contemporary required amendment by way of the code. In the code, it has been added, whereby
You are again on mute, sir. You are gone on mute.
how come it? So it has been added in the act as well as in the regulation. Whatever were deficiency for the smaller company, particularly to MSME, was visualized in the last 4 years of the operation of the IBC code. It has been tried to be addressed here. I mean, the basic objective of pre-pack is resolution. And if resolution does not happen, what will happen? It will be come back to its original position. What is there in the CRP? If resolution does not happen, the death is mandatory. The liquidation is mandatory. Now I should not say death, because in IBC also, CRP also, there is a scope for liquidation as a going concern. Now, what are the best points? Quick, very quick. That is 120 days. Cost effective. Then less invasive regime, and the control still remains with the corporate debtor. Now, what is the meaning of the pre-pack? I mean, everything is packaged in advance before it is put before the creditors or the executing authority, so that everybody knows that what is there in the packet, so that it can be faster taken forward. So from the perspective of the MSME, and moreover, the threshold limit has been brought down from 1 crore to 10 lakhs. So a lot of MSME has started approaching the insolvency professional, the chartered accountants, and there is a huge opportunity for the chartered accountant and professionals I look at in the pre-pack.
Thank you, sir. Daya Niwas ji, I will.
Sir, you have gone on mute. Abhay, you have gone on mute.
I think some network issues there. Abhay.
Just speak out, Abhay.
Durgesh bhai, you can continue, I think, sir.
Yeah.
No.
You can hear me?
Yeah. Yes, please.
Yeah. So I would like to know that is there a need to amend standards on auditing to capture the process of auditing through the newly developed technological tools now?
There is one dream which I am living with, however. You know, the dream I'll take undoubtedly guidance from person like MP sir and Subodh sir, even Durgesh for that matter. Very quickly, I'll say that, you know, the time of true and fair is going to go. It is going to be true, fair, and correct, which is going to be the future. And the standards which are going to be there, where you talk about sampling and multiple factors, is majorly undergoing to go change. And hopefully, you know, if I get elected for the next term, I'm going to work with the dream to rework on the futuristic accounting and auditing standards which are going to come in. Because there is a lot of changes. Might be a long-term contract has become a short-term, and short-term has become long-term. The definition of business is undergoing to change, go a major change. Just-in-time approach is actually becoming a reality because it is everywhere available. So there is a lot which is going to go change because of technology. Yes, I think time is going to be there very soon that, you know, there's a requirement of amendment for accounting and auditing standards both in times to come.
And MPVG, at the cost of repetition, though you had taken up some aspect of ESG, CSR, and other things during your initial delivery, what I feel is that further you can enhance your what you can say, the exposure, that how the members can be having more opportunities due to integrated reporting, CSR, and other areas which are now coming up in the corporate reporting.
Yeah, as far as these areas are concerned, I think in the foreseeable future, they will apply for large public interest entities. I want to be very candid about it. Globally also, it's only for large public interest entities. and not for all public interest entities. So whether it is sustainability reporting, integrated reporting, they will take some time to mature. They'll say take some time to mature. But nevertheless, it is a very important directional step which all investors have taken, even for investment in a startup. Please follow me very carefully. Even venture capitalists, private equity investors, or even Series A or seed capital investors, I don't know how many of you have exposure in the term sheets of investments. The standard clauses are there should be ESG practices which are acceptable, and they're talking about investments in small organizations with this as a clause. There should be, if there is some amount of manufacturing or construction other activity, they talk about necessity to have established HSE practices, health, safety, environment practices. The point I'm driving is there will be mandatory requirements for larger public interest entities, but there will be a other push coming from the investor and other community who will force even smaller organizations to adopt these practices, the concept of triple bottom line. And in India, and I'm very happy, Durgesh incidentally is the vice chairman of the Sustainability Standards Board. We are the first accounting body to have set up a formal board on this. And internationally, IFRS Foundation is setting up a separate Sustainability Standards Board. Just for all of your benefit, November 2020, we were supposed to have a physical meeting in India of the IFRS Foundation trustees to launch the formation of the International Sustainability Standards Board. Unfortunately, it became a virtual event. So the address has moved to London. Otherwise, India was supposed to be the place. So that's one very important direction. Please follow carefully. Larger public interest entities, it will be mandatory. Others, the society ecosystem will require it.
Thank you, MP Vijay. And I think we will conclude over here. And we are really thankful to all the four panelists to spare their valuable time. And I will thank DCSC for giving me also an opportunity to moderate these sessions. And it was really an enlightening one. And I will hand over the proceedings to Durgesh and Nilesh.
Thank you, Abhay. Durgesh, you want to say anything?
Over to you, Nilesh. Over to you.
Thank you.
I think you have spoken enough.
Thank you very much, moderators and panelists. Sir, one thing I think all the moderators and panelists will agree that whatever journey we carry from conventional to contemporary, one thing we cannot remove from the whole system is that acknowledging the efforts of all the panelists and moderators. So BCSE is very proud for acknowledging the efforts of all the panelists, sir. So I would now request Sikandar Yadav, my colleague, to please give a hearty vote of thanks to all the panelists and moderators.
Thank you, sir. It is a great privilege and honor to propose vote of thanks to the learned speakers and moderators for today's webinar. As the topic of today's webinar is journey from conventional to contemporary, I would like to make an attempt to propose vote of thanks in a contemporary manner. As we have mainly 4 directions, east, west, north, and south, and 4 seasons, winter, spring, summer, monsoon. Today we have 4 speakers, CA Daya Niwas Sharma ji, CA M P Vijaykumar ji, CA Subodh Agrawal ji, and CA Naresh Phanfat ji, covering all 4 directions and seasons for future where we can look placed and we should be prepared. That is technology, industry, insolvency, bankruptcy, valuation and opportunities abroad. With their vast knowledge and experience, and all it was very well directed and synced by our very senior moderator CA Durgesh Kabra ji and CA Abhay Mehta ji. I, on behalf of Borivali Central CP Study Circle, extend a hearty oath of thanks to the beautiful team of panelists. Now, I request all the members to join hands together for virtual applause. Thank you, sir.
Just to add, Sikandar,
Yes, sir.
there are 6 seasons in India. पतझड़ और वसंत ऋतु को भूल गए. वो पतझड़ और वसंत अभय भाई और दुर्गेश काबरा थे. मालूम नहीं पतझड़ कौन है, वसंत कौन है, बट हम थे.
जिसके बाल कम है, जिसके बाल कम है.
सर सिकंदर ने और एक चीज कहा था, ब्यूटीफुल पैनलिस्ट. सो आई थिंक नाउ दे आर ऑल हैप्पी.
Thanks everybody.
Thank you all.
It was a wonderfully moderated, Durgesh and Abhay Bhai, compliment to both of you and the organization.
Sir,
Thank you very much.
Sir, one good news to all the 4 of panelists. Abhay Bhai is becoming a president of BCA on 4th of July.
एक स्क्रीनशॉट ले लो भाई. अभी सबका फोटो है, एक स्क्रीनशॉट ले लो.
Best wishes. And you have the first event with Azim Premji, I think.
Sikandar, take the screenshot.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Unmute, Abhay bhai.
Thanks, and I hope you all will join us in listening to Azim Premji.
Yeah.
And he's talking on professional excellence and social responsibility. So it is a very valid topic where we have to
Kindly send us a link.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Excellent. Many
Thank
congratulations.
you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, Abhay.
Thank you.